Carissa Pavlica, TV Fanatic. Thank you both so much
Hi.
for being here and for doing this show. I just want to tell you, I was moved to tears watching the series, and I've been moved to tears with these interviews so far this morning. So I'm a
Oh,
little verklempt, which is just weird for me. Um,
Oh,
so bear with
we've
me.
existed in the same space. Don't worry.
we're right there
We're right
with
there
you.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick, I want to start with you. You said there's no excuse for Gacy's actions, only evil. How did you translate that belief into a story that still examines him without giving him the spotlight?
It's a great question. And it's sort of the premise of when I was alone first trying to craft the story. I share all the time that I turned the show down twice because I just didn't want to do it. I didn't know that there was another way to do it other than to focus it on Gacy. And on the third time that they asked, meaning this Universal Content and Peacock, I said, okay, well, then we're going to do it, but we're going to focus on the victims' families, the police and the lawyers and the victims. And I didn't know what any of that meant. I just knew that that had to be the thing. And to this day, Universal and Peacock have been amazing supporters of that vision. And so it wasn't until, and I'm going to get to the point of your question in 1 second about Gacy. It wasn't until we figured out that we would tell these short stories of the victims that we would completely remove it from John Wayne Gacy, that it would be about their hopes and their dreams and their tragedies and whatever we could get into with their backstories, with their how we could paint their lives as clear a picture as possible, that it really focused how we weren't going to be glorifying Gacy. It was through that lens that we cracked that nut, because A, by focusing on them, and B, by never showing any murders. Like, that was a hard red line, that we were never going to show any of the murders. We knew that we were going to be given the space to be able to also tell Gacy's story from an objective perspective as writers, where we were dramatizing the true history of John Wayne Gacy. And in no way, shape, or form are we ever saying that there is an excuse for what he did, right? By focusing on the victims, people have said it's because he was struggling with his identity. People said it was because he had an alcoholic, abusive father. And something that we talk about all the time is that, well, yeah, but the point of these stories that we just told is that there are millions of people who suffer from an abusive alcoholic parent. There are millions of people who went through a struggle of trying to find who they are and try to find acceptance by society. And those people didn't kill 33 people. And so I think the combination of those two story points gives us the freedom to appropriately tell John Wayne Gacy's backstory without ever excusing it.
And kind of pivoting off of that, Michael, the show never does show the violence. It doesn't go into into John Wayne Gacy's backstory, and yet you physically manifest somebody who is pretty terrifying on screen by just being absolutely ordinary.
Yeah.
How did you approach that, and how did you pull it off?
Well, thank you so much. I think that is at kind of the heart of the story, and the thing we were making is that this guy was, hiding in plain sight, for lack of a better term. He was not only not hiding, he was actively involved in Chicago's society. He was involved in local politics. He had a very public business. He was very social. He had a ton of friends. He was the guy you would call if you needed your driveway shoveled or your tire changed. His neighbors were shocked that he did this because he was just this jolly, sort of lovable, kind of charming, friendly neighbor. And to me, that dichotomy, this man who could do these unthinkable, horrific things, but seemingly present this facade of being harmless, was fascinating and such a challenge as an actor. And so the way I kind of approached it was there were just all these different, almost different characters that I had to play in any given scene. And that you only see the mask drop now and then, like to see the bad sort of mustache twirly, evil serial killer all the time. It ceases to be scary. It ceases to be effective. But when it only comes out in glimpses, those are those shocking moments oh God, I sort of was starting to be charmed by this guy. And then you realize, oh no, he's evil.
Um, Patrick, you call The Devil in Disguise a story about systematic failure. What parallels do you see between the failures that let Gacy kill and the systems that are still failing people today?
Look, it was a as each of my shows so far has explored systemic failure in some way. You know, one of the things that surprised me in a very odd way and naive way was the sheer level of systemic failure within the Chicago, specifically within the Chicago Police Department, that had multiple opportunities to be able to stop him and didn't either connect the dots or were driven by some prejudices that clouded all of their decision making. And before I move on to that, I do want to also stress that we also shine a light on the heroic nature of the police, on the police that were in the pit every single day and that were fighting to find and identify every single one of the victims. So this isn't a story of trying to demonize the police department. It is a story of pointing out where they failed and also where they succeeded. And to the point of your question, this story and the systemic failures of the 1970s are as relevant, if not more relevant, today. The idea that this is somehow past, that the prejudices, be they homophobia or socioeconomic or prejudice against people's backgrounds, people's rap sheets in some cases, right? We're facing that on a daily basis today. And so if there is one thing that I want people to take out of the show, there's two things. Number one, don't focus on John Wayne Gacy, focus on the victims. And if you want to research anything, research them. And number two is recognize the fact that we are still a society that is driven by prejudice and that we need to figure out ways of opening ourselves and embracing others and ensuring that we are giving everyone opportunities and we're trying to protect as many people as humanly possible. And that the more that we close down our perspectives on people, the more dangerous it is ultimately for society.
And I just want to finish up by saying that this was, without a doubt, the best true crime series I've seen in years. So thank you both so much for bringing it to life.
Wow. That
Thank you.
means more than you know. Thank you. That's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you very, very
Have
much.
a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
You too.
Yeah.